Hey everyone, ready to dive into some Indian electronics manufacturing?
Sounds good.
We're going to be looking at Dixon Technologies.
Okay.
They make everything from smartphones to washing machines,
Wow.
and they're a company really on the move with some ambitious expansion plans and some really impressive growth this past quarter.
Right.
We've got the transcript from their January 20th, 2025 earnings call.
Okay.
And we're going to be breaking down their performance,
Yeah.
exploring their growth strategy,
Mhm.
and seeing what it all means for the future of electronics manufacturing,
Okay.
not just in India, but potentially globally.
Interesting.
So one of the things that I found fascinating about Dixon is how they're really positioning themselves.
Yeah.
They're not just assembling electronics for other brands.
Right.
They're really trying to become a crucial player in the whole electronics ecosystem.
Yeah, what's fascinating is how they're not just, putting together the electronics for other brands,
Right.
but they're trying to become a crucial player in the entire electronics ecosystem.
What exactly does that mean?
So they're aiming to actually manufacture many of the components that
Yeah.
go into these electronics, like displays, camera modules, battery packs.
Okay.
So it's a very smart strategy, especially with India aiming to become a global manufacturing powerhouse.
So they're not just putting together the puzzle.
Right.
They're trying to make the pieces too.
Exactly.
That's pretty ambitious.
It is. And they're not just talking about it, they're taking action.
So let's look at their performance then.
Yeah.
So they posted a 117% increase in revenue,
Wow.
reaching a massive 10,461 crore rupees.
That's huge.
And their profits are up a whopping 124%.
Those figures are impressive, especially considering the global economic challenges everyone's facing right now.
Right.
This kind of growth in such a mature industry suggests they're doing something very right.
You've mentioned efficiency before and their smart use of capital. Can you break that down a bit more?
Absolutely.
What does that look like in practice?
It seems like they're being very careful in terms of managing their resources and making strategic investments that are paying off. Their strong operational efficiency and their financial discipline really stand out.
And they're producing over 60 million smartphones annually.
Wow.
So no wonder their mobile phone segment is booming.
Yeah.
It brought in over 8,000 crore rupees this quarter,
Really?
with a growth of 176%.
Right. Mobile phones are definitely their bread and butter.
Yeah.
And it's not just domestic demand driving this.
Yeah.
Their partnerships with global brands like Motorola, Xiaomi, Oppo, and their new joint venture with Vivo are giving them a global footprint.
And speaking of global front, they've just started exporting to Africa.
Wow.
Think about that, an Indian company manufacturing and exporting smartphones to the world.
It really highlights India's rising role in the global electronics market.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
They're aggressively expanding into making those components we talked about earlier.
Right.
So wanting to reduce reliance on imports and build a more robust ecosystem within India.
This is a pivotal move for them.
Yeah.
By diversifying into components, they gain more control over their supply chain, and they can add more value to their products.
Right.
It's not just about assembling anymore.
Right. And they're planning a massive $3 billion display fabrication plant.
Wow.
In partnership with HKC.
That's huge.
It's huge. Imagine the impact on India's electronics landscape if they could actually make their own displays instead of relying on imports.
It would be a game changer.
Right.
Reducing dependence on imports is one thing.
Yeah.
But if they can pull this off, Dixon could even become a key supplier of displays in the global market.
Hold on. For folks like me who aren't tech wizards,
Okay.
what exactly is a display fab?
Okay.
And why is it so important?
Sure. So a display fab is basically a specialized factory that makes the screens for our smartphones, our laptops, our TVs, all these electronics.
Okay.
They're incredibly complex to build and operate.
Right. So having a domestic source would be a huge win for India.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about this one plant.
Right.
It's a signal that they're serious about becoming a major force in electronics manufacturing.
Exactly. And this aligns perfectly with India's ambition to move up the value chain in electronics manufacturing.
Right.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah. It's amazing to see an Indian company thinking on such a large scale and aiming to make such a big impact. But of course, it's not all smooth sailing.
Right.
What are some of the challenges they're facing?
Well, one of the challenges is the government's mobile phone PLI incentives are ending in fiscal year 26.
Okay.
These incentives have been a big boost for the industry.
Yep.
So their end is definitely something to watch.
Can you break that down a bit? What exactly are PLI incentives and why are they ending?
So PLI stands for Production Linked Incentive.
Okay.
It's a program where the government provides financial incentive.
To companies like Dixon to encourage them to manufacture their products in India.
Got it.
These incentives were meant to help the industry get off the ground.
Right.
But they were always intended to be temporary.
Okay, so how will the end of PLI affect Dixon?
That's a big question, and we'll definitely dive deeper into that later.
Okay.
But they'll need to adapt and find ways to remain competitive without those incentives.
Okay. And they're also facing competition from other players like Tata Electronics, right?
That's right. Tata's a big name with a lot of resources, so that's definitely a challenge for Dixon. Plus, there's a slowdown in demand for some consumer electronics.
So how do you think Dixon will navigate these challenges? I mean, it sounds like they've got a lot on their plate.
Well, from what we've seen so far,
Yep.
they're a company that adapts and innovates.
Yep.
Their move into component manufacturing is a great example of that.
Right.
They're not just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. They're
Yeah.
taking control of their own destiny.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious about how they'll handle the end of the PLI
Right.
and the increasing competition.
Yeah, we'll definitely dig deeper into those questions as we continue our deep dive.
All right, sounds good. All right, we're back and ready to dig a little deeper
Okay.
into the numbers behind Dixon's success.
Yeah.
So we know their overall revenue and profit are through the roof.
Right.
But I'm curious about how each segment is contributing.
Yeah.
So let's start with their powerhouse,
Okay.
the mobile phone segment.
All right.
They pulled in a massive 8,089 crore rupees this quarter.
Wow.
That's a 176% jump from last year.
That's a pretty staggering number.
Yeah, it seems like those partnerships with big global brands are really paying off.
Absolutely. Manufacturing for Motorola, Xiaomi, Oppo, and now at the Vivo joint venture, they've got a solid presence in the Indian smartphone market.
Right, and it's not just about domestic sales anymore.
Right.
They're shipping those smartphones to Africa now, too.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal for an Indian company.
It is opening up those export markets is a key part of their growth strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so mobile phones are clearly a winner for them.
Yeah.
What about their other segments?
Sure.
What's happening with their consumer electronics division?
So their consumer electronics segment, which includes things like LED TVs and refrigerators, brought in 633 crore rupees in revenue.
Okay.
Not bad, but there's a bit of a slowdown in the LED TV market.
Okay.
Consumer demand isn't as strong as it was, and that's probably affecting their margins in this area.
So are they just riding it out and hoping things pick up?
Not at all.
Okay.
They're actively adapting by onboarding new brands like Hisense and Acer Pure, and offering more diverse operating systems like Google TV, Linux, and WebOS.
So basically, they're trying to offer a wider range of choices
Yeah.
to appeal to different consumer preferences.
Exactly.
Kind of like diversifying their portfolio within the consumer electronics segment.
Exactly. And they're also exploring new product categories like industrial and automotive displays.
Smart move. Okay, what about home appliances?
Right.
Are they still mainly focused on washing machines?
Washing machines are still a big part of it,
Okay.
bringing in 315 crore rupees this quarter,
Okay.
a 9% growth year on year.
All right.
But similar to consumer electronics, they're branching out.
So what else is cooking in the home appliance division?
They're seeing strong growth in their fully automatic washing machine category.
Okay.
And they're planning to roll out things like robotic vacuum cleaners, water purifiers, and even chimneys.
So they're tapping into that whole smart home trend.
It seems that way.
I guess everyone wants a robot to do their chores these days.
But seriously, it's a smart strategy to expand their product portfolio and reach a wider customer base.
All right, before we move on to their newer ventures,
Okay.
I'm curious about their lighting business.
Yeah.
Did they shed any light on that during the earnings call?
Yes. Their lighting business generated 201 crore rupees this quarter. They're securing big orders for floodlights and streetlights from major brands and focusing on that backward integration concept to improve margins.
Okay. Reminder for those of us who don't speak fluent business jargon.
Sure.
What's backward integration again?
Good point. It basically means they're trying to control more steps in the manufacturing process.
Okay.
So by making more of the components themselves, they can lower costs and increase their profits.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, now let's talk about their telecom and networking products segment.
All right.
That's a relatively new area for them, right?
Relatively new, yes.
Yeah.
But already showing remarkable growth.
Okay.
They brought in 977 crore rupees.
Wow.
A 48% increase just from the previous quarter.
Whoa, that's impressive. What kind of products are driving that growth?
They're making a range of things, including 5G FWA devices, access points, GPON ONTs, and set-top boxes.
Okay.
And their partnership with Airtel is a major factor here.
Right. Airtel is one of the biggest telecom players in India. Partnering with them gives Dixon access to a huge market.
Exactly. That partnership is a major win for them.
Okay, so taking a step back, it sounds like Dixon is firing on all cylinders.
It does.
Their core businesses are doing well.
Yeah.
And their newer ventures in telecom and IT hardware show a lot of promise.
They've built a remarkably diverse and resilient business.
Yeah.
It's well-positioned to capitalize on India's booming electronics market.
But let's be real, they're not operating in a vacuum.
Right.
We talked about the looming end of those mobile phone PLI incentives and the rising competition.
Right. Those are definitely challenges they need to address.
So what are they doing to prepare for the PLI cliff?
Well,
that's a big unknown for them, right?
They are taking proactive steps.
Okay.
Their move into component manufacturing and their strategic partnerships are key parts of their strategy.
And their reputation for operational efficiency and careful financial management gives them a solid base to work from.
Exactly. They're not just throwing money at problems. They're a well-managed company with a clear vision for the future.
All right, let's talk more about that move into component manufacturing.
Sure.
We know about the big display fabrication plant.
Yeah.
But what else are they doing in this space?
They're looking at producing a lot of key components like camera modules and battery packs.
Okay.
They've already brought in a top executive to lead this initiative and are building a team to get these projects rolling.
So they're not just dipping their toes in the water, they're diving right in.
Exactly.
But what's the big advantage of making these components themselves?
It's all about control and value. By making more components in-house, they're less reliant on imports and have more control over their supply chain.
Yeah.
Plus, it lets them add more value to their product and potentially boost their profit margins.
Because they're not just assembling the final product anymore.
Right.
They're becoming a bigger part of the manufacturing process.
Exactly. This backward integration is a game changer that will shape their business in the years to come.
Okay, so we've talked about their current performance and these strategic initiatives.
Yeah.
What's your overall outlook for Dixon Technologies? Are you feeling optimistic?
I am definitely optimistic.
Okay.
They've built a strong foundation for growth and are taking the right steps to face the challenges ahead.
It seems like their focus on efficiency, component manufacturing, and partnerships puts them in a good spot to ride the wave of India's electronics boom.
I agree. They have the potential to become a real leader in electronics manufacturing, even on a global scale.
That's a bold statement.
It is.
What do you think are the key factors that will determine their success?
Well, I think execution is critical.
Okay.
Projects like that display fabrication plant are complex and require massive investment and expertise.
Yeah.
They also need to navigate the regulatory landscape effectively.
So it's not just about having a good idea. It's about making it happen in the real world.
Exactly. Talent. They need to continue attracting and retaining top talent. Building a world-class team is essential for any company aiming for global leadership.
Makes sense. And of course, they can't afford to fall behind on the technology front.
Absolutely. Yeah. The electronics industry evolves rapidly.
Right.
And Dixon needs to be at the forefront of innovation to stay ahead of the competition.
Okay. So they've got their work cut out for them.
They do.
Before we move on, though, let's touch on their recent acquisition of Land Buildings Plant and Machinery for 133 crore rupees through their subsidiary Ismartu.
Right.
What's the thinking behind that move?
It's all about scaling up their smartphone manufacturing for brands like Nothing and Trensoon.
Okay.
They're looking to boost production to meet growing demand, both in India and for export markets.
So basically, they're investing in their infrastructure to keep up with their growth plans.
Precisely, this acquisition will allow them to ramp up production and grab a larger share of the market.
It's interesting that they're specifically acquiring assets to support manufacturing.
Yeah.
Nothing smartphones.
Right.
Nothing is a fairly new brand.
Yeah.
but they're making a name for themselves in the premium segment.
It is a strategic move for Dixon to partner with an up-and-coming brand with the potential to disrupt the market.
So this acquisition is all about solidifying their position in the smartphone market.
Right.
And expanding their manufacturing capacity.
Exact.
Smart move.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's switch gears for a moment.
Sure.
And talk about their joint venture with Vivo.
All right.
This seems like a major development that could have a big impact on their mobile phone business.
It's a big deal. Vivo is one of the top smartphone brands in India.
Right.
And this partnership gives Dixon access to their manufacturing expertise and those all-important distribution channels.
Right. Vivo has a strong presence both online and in brick-and-mortar stores, which is a big plus for Dixon.
Exactly. And a key detail here is that Dixon will hold a 51% stake in the joint venture.
So they have majority control.
Yes, which gives them greater control over the joint venture's operations and allows them to consolidate its financials.
Smart move.
Yeah.
It ensures they really benefit from the joint venture's success.
Yeah.
This sounds like a win-win situation for both Dixon and Vivo.
Absolutely. Dixon gets to leverage Vivo's brand recognition and distribution network,
right,
while Vivo benefits from Dixon's manufacturing expertise and scale.
Okay, let's break down how this joint venture will work.
Sure.
What's the structure?
Vivo India will transfer its existing manufacturing assets to the joint venture.
Okay.
It includes their facilities, equipment, and workforce.
So it's like Dixon is absorbing Vivo's manufacturing operation in India.
Right.
But it's more of a partnership than a straight-up acquisition.
Right. It's a collaborative effort where both companies bring their strengths to the table to create something stronger.
What will be the main focus of this joint venture?
They'll primarily manufacture smartphones for the Indian market, drawing on Dixon's manufacturing prowess and Vivo's design expertise to create a range of phones for different budgets.
So they're aiming to cover a wide range of consumer needs and price points.
Exactly. And they'll leverage Vivo's robust distribution network to reach a wider audience.
With Vivo's strong presence in both online and offline retail, they'll be able to connect with consumers across different demographics and regions.
Yeah.
This joint venture could really catapult Dixon's smartphone business to the next level.
I agree. It gives them a powerful combination of brand recognition, distribution, and manufacturing expertise.
There's one thing we should mention, though.
Okay.
This joint venture still needs the green light from regulators, right?
That's correct. They need approval from the government under Press Note 3, which governs foreign direct investment in India.
Yes, the joys of bureaucracy.
It is.
So there's still a bit of uncertainty about when it will be fully operational.
There is. But it's expected to be finalized in the next 6 to 7 months.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that.
All right.
In the meantime, let's shift our focus to another exciting development.
Okay.
Dixon's push to strengthen its backward integration.
Right.
They're in talks with a global tech partner
to
build a state-of-the-art display fab in India.
This is a huge step that aligns perfectly with their goal of reducing reliance on imports and building a more robust component ecosystem within India.
Right now, India imports most of its displays.
Right.
That makes them vulnerable to disruptions in the supply chain and fluctuations in currency exchange rates.
Exactly. By setting up a display fab, Dixon gains more control over their supply chain, which could help stabilize costs. And potentially, it positions them as a key supplier in the global display market.
So instead of just being a buyer,
Right.
They could become a seller of these essential components.
Yeah. Precisely, they could supply displays to other manufacturers in India or even export them to other countries.
Wow.
It's a strategic move with the potential to transform their business.
It sounds like a very ambitious project.
It is.
Where do things stand right now?
They're still in discussions with their potential partner and are waiting for policy guidelines from the Indian government's ISM 2.0 program.
Hold on, I need a quick explainer here.
Sure.
What's the ISM 2.0 program?
It's a government initiative designed to promote electronics manufacturing in India by offering various incentives to companies that invest in this sector.
So Dixon is waiting to see what kind of incentives might be on the table before moving forward.
That's right.
They want to make sure this project makes financial sense.
That's right. There's still some uncertainty.
Right.
But it clearly shows Dixon's ambition to move up the value chain and become a major player in the global electronics industry.
It's a bold move, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's take another quick pause here. When we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Dixon Technologies and discuss what their future might hold in the exciting world of electronics manufacturing. Welcome back to our deep dive.
All right.
We've covered a lot of ground with Dixon Technologies, and I think one thing that really strikes me is just their sheer ambition.
I agree.
I mean, they're not just content with being a successful manufacturer in India.
Right.
They really seem to be aiming for a much bigger role on the global stage.
It's true. Their aspirations are pretty clear.
Right.
Remember at the beginning we talked about them wanting to be a key part of the entire electronics ecosystem?
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty lofty goal at the time.
Right.
But as we've gone through their earnings call, it's starting to feel more and more real.
Their actions definitely back up their words. I mean, we've seen their investments in component manufacturing, their partnerships for things like, this precision camera modules, and even their exploration of building a display fab.
All of that points to a long-term strategy. It's not just chasing short-term profits.
It's like they're building a solid foundation.
Right.
Brick by brick, to become a truly vertically integrated company.
And that kind of vertical integration, as you explained earlier, not only gives them more control over their supply chain, but also makes them a more attractive partner for those global brands.
Absolutely. Right. Those brands are looking for reliable, efficient manufacturing partners. Yeah. And Dixon is positioning itself to be exactly that.
Okay, so let's circle back to a topic that's been looming over this whole discussion.
Okay.
The ending of those mobile phone PLI incentives in FY26.
Right.
I know some analysts are worried about how that will impact Dixon, but I'm curious to get your perspective.
Well, there's no denying that the PLI scheme has been a major catalyst for growth in the Indian electronics industry, including for Dixon.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that these incentives were always designed to be temporary, a way to kickstart domestic manufacturing.
So it's not like they're suddenly going to lose all support.
Exactly.
And from what we've seen in this earnings call, Dixon has used those PLI benefits wisely.
I agree.
They haven't just been coasting along.
Right.
They've been using that time to invest in capacity expansion, diversify their product range, and as you said, build a foundation for sustainable growth, even without those incentives.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And I think their move into component manufacturing is a perfect example of that forward-thinking approach.
Yeah, instead of relying on those incentives forever, they're making themselves less reliant on imports and creating a competitive advantage that will outlast the PLI scheme.
Right. They're turning a potential challenge into an opportunity.
Right. And let's not forget their focus on operational efficiency and careful financial management.
Those are fundamentals that will always be crucial regardless of government policies.
Okay, but even with all of that,
there's
no escaping the fact that competition in the electronics market is heating up.
Right.
I talked about Tata Electronics.
Yeah.
But there are other players too. How do you see Dixon navigating this increasingly crowded landscape?
I think healthy competition is a good thing.
Okay.
It forces everyone to raise their game and innovate.
But how does Dixon stand out from the crowd?
Well, for starters, they have a remarkably diverse product portfolio. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket, which makes them more resilient to market fluctuations.
So it's true. They've got smartphones, TVs, refrigerators, washing machines, lighting, telecom equipment, IT hardware.
Right.
Even those wearable devices we talked about earlier.
That's a pretty impressive spread.
Yeah.
And it gives them a lot of options for growth.
What else sets them apart?
Their strong relationships with global brands are a huge asset.
Yeah.
They've consistently proven themselves as reliable, high-quality manufacturing partners.
And those partnerships also open doors to international markets.
Exactly.
Right.
So they're not just limited to India.
Right. And finally, their commitment to investing in technology and innovation can't be overlooked.
Absolutely. They're not content with simply replicating what others are doing.
Right.
They're constantly exploring new manufacturing techniques, automation, and even pushing the boundaries with things like that potential display fab.
So it's a combination of a wide range of products, strong partnerships, and a forward-thinking approach to technology.
That's a pretty powerful combination.
Right.
And I think it will serve them well in the increasingly competitive global electronics market.
So even with the end of the PLI scheme and the rising competition, you're confident in Dixon's ability not just to survive, but to thrive.
I am. I think their strategic vision, disciplined execution, and willingness to embrace innovation give them a solid foundation for long-term success.
All right. As we wrap up our deep dive into Dixon Technologies, let's leave our listeners with a final thought.
I think the key takeaway here is that Dixon Technologies is more than just another company. They represent a shift in India's role in the global tech landscape.
Right.
Their journey from a local assembler to a company that's aiming to shape the future of electronics manufacturing is truly inspiring.
It's a story of ambition, innovation, and the potential for Indian companies to become global leaders.
And I think it's a story that's only just beginning.
Well said. So, to our listeners, keep an eye on Dixon Technologies.
Yeah.
Their story is one to watch, and it could very well redefine the future of electronics manufacturing, not just in India, but around the world. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
It was my pleasure.
We'll see you next time with another fascinating exploration of the ideas and people shaping our future.